Hello everybody, what is up? Cobra here. As you can see, if you saw my last video I made, which was the Beauty of the Board flyover of this Korean war game, then you may have gotten a quick look at the beginning setup of this game. But as you can see, this is about halfway through Historical Board Gaming's Korean war game. You can see that we started back here and we have gone all the way to here. Pretty fast turns, they're only about 10 minutes apiece, but as you can see, a lot of progress has been made during this game. So, real quick, if you're unfamiliar with the game, which this is like one of the only YouTube videos out there about it. So, basically, the objective is that the North Korean army up here has to push into the south, and the south has to try to defend and take out the north, because basically, whoever has the most territories at the end of all those turns is the winner. And basically, the teams are, we've got North Korea versus South Korea, and you can see right there, there's a South Korean infantry. I'm just using Anzacs. We have the Americans, and we have the British represent the NATO forces of Europe. So, yeah, basically, and then lastly, we've got China up here. They're neutral, and there's some stipulations on how they join the war if attacked, or if certain things are kind of made out and they end up joining the North Koreans in their conquest. So basically, like I said, about halfway through, and I guess some little highlights of this, because we're going to get into like gameplay and how the game worked and the review of it in a future video. But right now, just kind of going into what happened so far. So, if you saw in the original video, the North has a bunch of units. They're heavily militarized in the beginning of the game. So they started pushing past the 38th parallel, and they were working to envelop Seoul up here, which was heavily defended by a huge stack of South Korean infantry. They ended up finally taking Seoul, and basically this game, logistics are really hard because all units except for trucks move one. So they had to basically build units in Pyongyang and slowly keep moving them down. Now that they've taken Seoul, they have a factory so they can start building stuff there. And as you can see, you've got these armored hordes that are trying to take out the South. So then for the Americans and NATO, so with Seoul being captured, the South Koreans only have one last spot. You can see with the roundel to actually make stuff. These other roundels you see, so the NATO and America, that's where units kind of flow in. That's where transports are basically dropping off new units. And the Americans and NATO have to work with the fact that their reinforcements come late, basically. So every turn, they're building units here, and they slowly move up this track until finally, you can see, these units will be getting placed this turn. So, yeah, there's definitely that struggle, but you can see that there is a ton of units right now that have been put down. You've got a lot of South Korean army units here. All these armored and trucks represent South Koreans, and the Americans have a lot of infantry and mechanized units, as well as a ton of fighters here. At the same time, the North Koreans have just been pumping out a huge amount of tanks with some infantry on the way. They took out about 16 American tanks in the battle for, I think this is Osan, only taking a couple infantry as losses, so that was a major victory. One of the bigger things that's been going on, though, the more important matter, is that the NATO forces took a few of their forces and South Korean forces, landed up here, and as you can see, South Koreans have pushed into Yanggu and over here, as well as taking Pyongyang. So that is the capital of North Korea. It doesn't really affect them that much. It's a place they can produce units, but other than that, now it's pretty important because of the fact that not only did it knock North Korea down in money, but South Korea can start building units here with the factory. And North Korea really doesn't have a lot of units left, so up here to defend, so you've got like these guys and a few units up here. But that's going to be a tough nut to crack, especially because the South Koreans have a lot of tanks that will be able to show up at that factory because there's a supply route being this territory that is connected by the sea. So one thing they will have to look out for is the fact that if they get too ambitious, China could end up coming into the war they'll come into the war if any of these stars are taken. And if there's a certain, I don't know which cities it is, it's like, I think all of the cities surrounding Pyongyang, including Pyongyang, if they're all taken, China will join the war, which is something that the Allies really don't need right now because there's a ton of North Korean units pushing down south. But overall, this is a pretty fun game, and I hope you liked just this little short 5-minute look at the mid-game report. And I hope to see you again for the final kind of episode and review of this game. Cobra, out.